K-pop Demon Hunter's Haja Boys breakfast meal and Huntrix meal have just dropped at McDonald's. They're calling this a battle for the fans. What do you say to that, Rumi?
It's not a battle. So glad the Saja Boys could take breakfast and give our meal the rest of the day.
It is an honor to share.
No, it's our honor.
It is our larger honor.
No, really. Stop.
You can really feel the respect in this battle. Pick a meal to pick a side.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
At participating McDonald's while supplies last.
They say you should learn something new every day. Like how you should only drink Jägermeister at 0 degrees Fahrenheit, ice cold. Like those frozen cavemen they find, which makes you wonder, what would a caveman think of Jägermeister? Well, if you served it warm, he'd probably throw it in your face, say, "Unga boonga," and storm off. And nobody wants that. So drink it cold or not at all. Jägermeister. Damn, that's cold. Drink responsibly. Jägermeister liqueur, 35% alcohol by volume, imported by Mast Jägermeister, U.S., White Plains, New York.
Don't let tax refund worries hold you back. File now with TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They'll find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to However the podcast, and I hope you listened into part 1 of our Football Room 101, which saw Andrew go up against Jonny to see who could rid football of their pet hate by persuading me to place them in Room 101 to banish them forever. So we started off with Jonny going 1-up with his Americanization of the game, going straight into Room 101, while Andrew wasn't quite as successful because gambling ads didn't. But luckily, I have the same two gentlemen with me today, looking to have a couple more attempts in part 2 in the next 2 rounds. And first up is Jonny Hawley. Hello, Jonny.
Hello again, Chris. And also hello to Andrew, who can't speak yet because he's not been introduced. Ha 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 ha. Unlucky, mate.
Well, so you kissed this guy there, so you're still chuffed with going 1-up.
I'm just riding this high, Chris. I hope it doesn't end. To be honest, I could ride this feeling forever.
It sounds like an Americanization of a game show or something. Yeah, the words like
Listen, we're all hypocrites on this podcast, okay? We've all come to terms with that a long time ago.
Well, that's it. I had to stop us from being massive hypocrites on the last one, and I think that's a good point to welcome Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. People will be looking at Jonny and going, Johnny's riding high. He's in a good mood. It must be because Sunderland beat Newcastle. No. He won the opening round on the latest Room 101.
Yeah, rank the moments of this week so far. Room 101,
Yeah.
Robbie, Talby.
Yeah. When he said there, Andrew can't speak because he hasn't been introduced yet, I don't want to speak at all because I know what you're going to do, Chris. You are going to drop in that clip from the start of the Christmas edition just to really make me look like a horrible shill.
Well,
What do you mean? What do you mean make you look like?
That's nasty. I didn't know we were going to be getting the boxing gloves on for this.
Well, that's it. You got to get warmed up for this, mate. It's a fight to the death.
And Andrew sat there in his Betfred hoodie and his Paddy Power hat, like a walking endorsement sitting there, mate. But luckily, we're not doing video, so nobody can quite see how hypocritical we are. But anyway, look, we need to go into round 2 because I can see you two are itching, especially with Jonny being 1-up because Andrew's desperate to pull it back. So we need to go into the second round, and I'm going to start with Jonny. What's your second pick?
So my second pick is modern football socks and shin pads. I absolutely detest them. So the socks part, the one that everybody always talks about is people who cut them stupid holes in the back. I'm not going to touch on them because that's a totally different kettle of fish. That's a whole can of worms that gets everybody all bent out of shape. But the part that I really hate now is they cut off the entire foot part of the sock and they just slide the remaining tube up their leg and sort of have it around their calf up to their knee. What on earth possible benefit can there be to clearly having to wear another pair of socks under your socks that have got a feet part on to then cut the feet part off your other pair of socks and put them over top? You cannot possibly tell me that that makes any blind bit of difference to an elite footballer. Oh, wait, but these football socks have got feet on them. Well, I'll be useless now. I was worth 60 million yesterday, but I'm about worth £2 now because these bloody socks have got feet on them. You expect me to play in socks with feet in them? God, what is this? You know, is this the 20th century, peasant land somewhere where we're all expected to work ourselves to death? You can't expect us to do that. And conjoined with this is the shrinking. It's not only the shrinking of the sock, the shrinking of the shin pad. So we can't have full socks. We've got to cut the feet off. And shin pads, what? You want me to wear a shin pad that covers my shin? You want the shin pad to actually be the size of a shin? No, that makes no sense whatsoever. Obviously, I need to get a micro SD card size piece of plastic and slide that in the middle of my pair of socks so it looks like somebody's accidentally dropped a grain of rice down the front. And that'll protect us from all sorts of injuries, obviously. If I take a set of studs clean down the middle of my shin with full force in a 50-50 challenge with somebody, obviously that tiny little bit of plastic's everything's gonna bounce straight off. I'll be absolutely fine. No, you won't be fine. You're gonna be injured and you're gonna cry about it, and it's gonna be all your own fault for refusing to wear proper shin pads. When I was playing football, that sounds like an old man here, it's about 10 years ago. When I was playing Sunday League, I had big shin pads with they'd have a strap around the top part, they'd have a strap around the middle part, they'd have the ankle protectors on the bottom that would slide all the way around with that little loop that goes under the bottom of your foot. I had actual football socks that were entire socks and weren't just random tubes made out of cloth. And guess what? I could still run around, and I could still kick a ball, and I could still get through 90 minutes without me legs being in some sort of unspeakable agony from being contained by bits of plastic and fabric for 90 minutes. So, yeah, what on earth has possessed people to move towards these horrendous abominations? I don't know, but it's got to stop.
Well, my first question, actually, and a brilliant argument as always, Jonny, but the first thing I wanted to ask was about the holes in the socks. I still don't know what they're for.
So apparently something to do with the compression on the back of a calf muscle or something like that to alleviate. I mean, as I say, that's a set of weeds that I don't know if we want to get stuck in, because apparently there's some science behind it. I can't pretend to be an expert on the effects of compression on the human calf muscle. I've got many strings to me bow. That one isn't one of them. But what you can never convince me is that there's some equivalent sort of benefit to not having a foot to your sock. Come on.
Yeah, but can you remember, back in the day, actually, you're talking about cutting socks and things. Can you remember back in the day when you were young, when the football socks, for some reason, went really hard and it was really tough to put them on at times, or not? Is that just me?
Yeah, I think, and we might want to fact check this, but I think that a Premier League football club can probably afford some fabric softener to whack in with the socks when they put them through the wash. So I would imagine that's less of an issue at the top level of the game than it was for us.
Well, just going about socks and shin pads and things like that, because you see sometimes, and I'm trying to think, I'm sure Jack Grealish is one of them, who basically down his sock has a tiny little just piece of material, basically. I mean, it can't really be called a shin pad, but I'm not sure actually what the laws are. I mean, do players actually have to wear shin pads or have to wear something down their socks? Because I go back to the days of Steve Claridge, who used to look like he used to roll his socks down and he looked like he had nothing under his socks.
I think the rule is that you have to wear something as a shin pad, but I think the specific definitions of what is and what is not a shin pad are quite loose, which is how you've seen players able to get away with sticking, like you remember in is it Goal, the film, where early on the Santiago Munez character, he's like, he goes to his first training session, he's got no shin pads and he panics, so he gets a couple of bits of cardboard and just whacks them down his sock. That's the equivalent of what players are doing now.
Whoa, hang on a minute. you just mentioned the Goal movie?
Yes.
Go on, Chris. Go on, Chris. You've got
the one where he plays for, and I've genuinely never seen it, but he ends up playing for who?
Real Madrid. He goes to a stepping stone club in between then. You know, he goes to one of these little minnows, one of these English minnows in the meantime, before he gets his move to the proper big time. We all know that.
You knew he signed for that lot, and you still sat down and watched the whole thing.
Whoa. How much control did you have over what films your primary school was showing, Chris, at the end of
primary
term?
school?
Yeah.
That's another own goal right there, Jonny, just for saying that.
I've forgotten what your argument is now, Jonny. You've completely blown it now. But tell you what, even at primary school, if that was on behind us, I wouldn't have turned round to watch it.
Would you rather watch a film about football that includes the mags or do your maths homework? That's the equation you've got to consider.
Maths homework, but maybe I was quite sad because I quite liked it. So quite a few things. But anyway,
it says me who did maths at A level as well. Like I can't talk.
That's an indictment on me. But anyway, getting back to this. But yeah, I mean, talking about the safety aspect, because I want to get into.
Oh no.
Yeah, the health and safety. Hey, it's you, Jonny. We've got to bring up the health and safety. You've brought up the sections, but yeah, you talk about. And I remember Gary Mabbott, I think, had a really bad one where he fractured his leg, I think, where he basically cleared the ball. And you've got that scenario, Jonny, and you'll recognise this, where a striker comes across and tries to block the shot, and the follow through from the clearance basically wraps the leg around almost the striker. Yeah. And that's where shin pads come in important, isn't it? Because that essentially stops you from fracturing your shin bone, doesn't it?
Well, exactly, right. It's I think you can compare it in a strange sort of way to a pair of keeper's gloves, right? So you remember you can get keeper's gloves that had like the finger save things, those like essentially bits of plastic that would go up the fingers that would stop your fingers bending back when you saving a shot, tipping something wide or whatever. And again, it's like the same principle, right? You have that support, you have that bit of structure in there to prevent the uncomfortable bending and warping of bits of human bone, which is never a fun experience for anybody involved. And shin pads are the same, but to a much greater extent, because the shin bone, as I'm sure we're all aware, not the most robust of the bones in the human body. Certainly not in the leg. And in a game of football, that's front and center for any damage that's coming. More likely than not, it's going to be coming front on for the middle of your leg, isn't it? So that clearance scenario, your classic, 50-50 and two players go in with a slightly outstretched foot. One of them gets the ball, the other one doesn't, but the foot's still got to go somewhere. And if it goes through and clacks into the middle of your shin, you're going to know about it. If you've got a proper pair of shin pads on, then at least you've got a chance of walking away from that none the worse for it. If you've got one of these modern little bloody SIM cards in your sock instead, you'd be lucky to be walking away from it full stop.
SIM cards. But just because we've gone all health and safety, I just want to finish before I bring Andrew in, Jonny, swing the other way for a second. Obviously on this topic, that we're going to go to huge shin pads. Are we talking about that players have to wear their socks rolled all the way up and they have to wear a certain size? Is this what you're saying? Because then do you even think about back in the day, the old footage of the likes of George Best and things like that. Do we lose that maverick who wanders around the pitch with his socks rolled down and, no shin pads on and all of that sort of stuff? Are we happy to just lose that and all players have to wear regulated shin pads and socks pulled all the way up?
Would you rather watch George Best for 10 games with his socks rolled down looking all cool? Or would you rather watch him for 100 games with his socks rolled up and looking slightly more like a nerd, but at least his legs work and he can still play football? That's the equation you got to think of there. What's the best ability? Availability. What's the best way to not be available? It's to wear these stupid bloody shin pads and snap your leg in half.
I mean, I thought I'd logged into LinkedIn for a minute there, where he was going. Well, it's about time we brought Andrew in on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still waiting for Jonny to put his point across because all I've heard for the last 10 minutes is Steve Bracknell complaining about complaining about things. Right, I've got so many various points here. I think this whole conversation's null and void because of that whole admittance to watching Goal, which, by the way, the Goal franchise, I dare say that was Hollywood-funded Americanization of football.
Oh, I tell you what.
Do you know what I mean? You
I
might
bet
wanna-
you're right. I bet you're right. Ha 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 ha.
you are a bugger because you've stolen a gag that I was gonna do in a couple of minutes.
Great minds think alike, mate.
You-
That's all it is.
Oh, I'm in a mood now. Right, I am coming for you. The maths homework. Instead of watching football on the TV, I think at the moment you need to practice your maths to just count the amount of wins we've had over Newcastle in the last few years to the point where you have to take your shoes and socks off. Now, it would be a lot easier to take your socks off if you were just wearing sleeves that didn't cover your feet. But I think now, you know how you're talking about you cut off the feet? I don't even think you can do that. You don't even need to do that now because you can just buy the sock bit that goes over your, that would be your calves. No, it's not your calf. Flip the neck. What part of the body is that socks cover above your ankles? Your shins and your calves. It is your calves.
Shins and
isn't
your
it?
calf. Your lower
Yeah.
legs. Your lower legs.
Lower legs. There you go. I'm not going to win many arguments if I don't know this on that. But you don't even need to buy them with the feet. You can just get them that are purely the bit that kind of means you adhere to the rules about kit and you're wearing the right colours. And I think under that, what a lot of them wear now are like these kind of grip socks, which mean you get fewer blisters. That's apparently the only reason why they cut off the bottoms of the socks.
Well, if they're that good, if they're that good at stopping blisters, why don't they just start making football socks with them on the bottom?
Oh, yeah. It's right. I mean, I don't dispute that. And the other point I want to make, you were talking about those old school shin pads. They were a health and safety hazard because after playing football, you just chucked them in the boot of your car, left them there for a week, and then you didn't think about them again until your next game. You'd get them out, they would be absolutely lifting.
There'd be some biodiversity on them, wouldn't they, after a while?
Exactly. God knows what was on those ankle protection sections. And that is why they've had to get rid of them because, yeah, they were just the skin conditions you will have got from putting them back on.
Players were going on European trips and getting detained for committing biological warfare, trying to cross over the borders and that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked about socks and shin pads for long enough now, and we need Andrew's pick because, of course, it is best of three. This is round two, and we need to know what's going up against socks and shinnies.
Of course. And I don't think any of my response there, Chris, actually took Jonny down. I think I just made a whole random collection of thought.
It was just you trying to remember parts of the body.
Yeah, basically, and not succeeding.
Listen, whoever said this podcast isn't educational, mind, we're providing a service to all the listeners.
But one of the guests on it needs to have the education. Right. I'm now, having admitted that I've got no morals and got no intelligence whatsoever, I'm now going to criticize somebody else and tell them they don't know what they're doing. My second option for Room 101 is IFAB and just them basically piss farting around with the laws of the game. Now, I'm going to get stressed in these next couple of minutes, so if I say rules instead of laws, I apologize in advance. I know that upsets people. IFAB, for those who don't know, are the International Football Association Board. They've been in place since the 1880s. FIFA do have representation on the board, but they are meant to be like a standalone body, and their remit is to meet twice a year and kind of help improve the game by tweaking laws, maybe introducing new laws ahead of of each season. But come on, do they actually watch football? Has any of the major headaches over the last few years been sorted by them? You know, there is controversy after every single game, and yet things don't get dealt with. Now, this was going to be me joke in me notes, Jonny. I was going to say that I would bet you, or I can almost guarantee, the next set of Premier League fixtures, there will be arguments about handball. There'll be a decision on the Saturday where everybody's up in arms, ironically, about handball, complaining that one wasn't pre-prepared either. I don't know which is worse, the jokes that are off the cuff, there's another one, off the cuff or pre-planned, they're all as bad as each other. But
you're here all week.
Yeah. Well, I think I have been, to be fair. People are going to be sick of listening to me on the pods. Anyway, on the Saturday, there'll be a big row about a handball decision. And then on the Sunday, a similar incident will happen and you'll get a different decision. But no, we'll not tighten that up. We'll not look at any of the issues that cause the most scrutiny. We'll just ignore them and just let the game carry on instead. What we'll do is we'll change things like this current season. One of the things they brought in was only the captain protocols, which, surprise, surprise, hasn't lasted 1 minute. Captains are meant to be the only ones talking to the referees now. Well, we could have told you that wouldn't work, and it hasn't worked. That's borne fruit. Double touch penalties from this season onwards. If the ball goes in the net, they're meant to be retaken. How often has that been a problem? How many times in football has a double touch penalty really been an issue? But no, lads, we better get this one settled. We better come up with a solution for that problem that doesn't exist. A couple of years ago, they introduced changes to the kickoff where you no longer had to roll. Didn't you have to roll the ball forwards and then roll it backwards? But now you can just roll it backwards. Brilliant. I mean, that has revolutionized the game because that's all we did on a Monday morning in the office. We argued about somebody, whether they took 2 touches to start the game or not. It's all of this. We've got the World coming up this summer. So they've already announced the rules for next season. Some of these are going to be implemented in the World Cup. Some of them are sensible, but man, a lot of these are going to be abused. How have they not thought these things through? So, like, for example, there's a 5-second rule going to be introduced for throw-ins and goal kicks. Aye, great. Do you think there's any danger of a throw-in being taken from the right place, maybe? Please, lads. Or for a throw-in to actually be taken properly? Throw-ins now are just people launching the ball, like bouncing it off the ground as hard as they can. The other one, or one of the other ones, substitutes only having 10 seconds to leave the pitch, otherwise the sub will be forced to wait a minute of live play. Now, we need to stop time wasting. We need to manage the game better. Who's going to implement that? Who's going to count that down and time how long it takes the player to come off the pitch? And the big one, if you are injured in a game and the incident, the clash, doesn't lead to a card, you have to leave the pitch after treatment for a minimum of a minute. It's 30 seconds now, but it's going to be a minute. I mean, why? I know play acting is an issue and needs looking at, but in a contact sport, for a team to be disadvantaged by a genuine injury, that's wrong. What happens when a player who is injured refuses treatment because it's towards the end of the game and you're hanging on in, you're trying to hold on for a result, so he refuses treatment so he can play on, and then they make things worse for themselves? I've read a BBC report talking about this latest set of new rules, new guidance they're bringing in. It said they had a few trials last season. They had technical teams discussing it, but they could find no solution for what is the tactical timeout that has become the scourge of the modern game. So IFAB have recognised this. They've recognised that goalkeepers, for example, just take a dafting and fall down so that the managers can get a few instructions into their players. But they've discussed it at length and gone, oh, we can't think of any solution for that one. So we'll just mess around with the edges of it instead and extend the amount of time a genuinely injured player has to come off the pitch. I just think that sums it up for me. The real heart of the issues get ignored, and they just mess about with these fiddly little things. And here's another one. They've agreed to further trials about potential changes for offside. We've been waiting for changes to offside for, I don't know, since Jonny last put on a pair of proper size shin pads. They're never going to bring it in. And they've agreed next season to consult about measures to combat players covering their mouths when confronting opponents because of that recent racist episode. I think it was a Champions League game where
the Real Madrid one, against Benfica.
They can't now determine if it was racist because apparently the Benfica fans covered their mouths, so you can't lip read or anything. What do you need to consult about that? Just say, right, lads, you can't cover your mouths anymore when talking to opposition. Am I being like ridiculously naive and thick with all these things? Or could some of these things just be a simple fix that gets sorted a lot sooner?
Well, you ended with a really loaded question there, Andrew. Dangerous.
Yeah.
But actually, as you said, IFAB had its 140th annual general meeting, which was held in Wales. That was at the end of February. So as you said, they've been going 140 years, changing the game bit by bit. You did mention a few things, of course, because they did come to quite a lot of decisions in that. But I mean, just for instance, I'll pick out a specific one. You did mention that the team captain one. Rules like that, if you look at the actual text, and I'm getting all kind of health and safety documentation, Jonny Hawley for a second, but the actual text of it does say that competitions may implement only the captain guidelines. So they didn't kind of enforce it on every competition. So it wasn't like the Premier League said, right, we're going to take that and that's going to be a thing. I think they encouraged it in the Premier League, but didn't bring it in as a law and didn't bring it in so people could be punished about it. Which just
I'll just jump in, Chris. Don't worry. I'll save you the trouble here. They don't even have the courage of their convictions then. So they've gone, well, here's a law that we'll think will change the game and improve it. But I tell you what, you lads just pick and choose whether you want to fancy it or not. Well, what's the point then?
Well, I'll bring you in on that because you're saying, well, what's the point and all this? Well, on one hand, you're saying they keep fiddling with it too much. They keep messing with it. And on the other hand, everything you listed, I think, there, when you went through the rules, you said, well, that's an issue they need to sort. So they are trying to do it, but at the same time, that if they brought in huge changes, if they change something fundamentally, surely it's safer to do it bit by bit and make sure they're not ruining the game that we love, rather than building something, just introducing something huge and changing it fundamentally that we go, oh my God, they've broken it.
In theory, that makes perfect sense, but they're fiddling with the bits and bobs that don't matter. Like I say, changing the way a game is restarted or kicked off. Little bits and bobs like that don't need addressing nearly as much as the offside guidelines, the handball issues. So yes, by all means, change things, and I appreciate they'll come in for flack. And I appreciate anybody that changes football. There'll be just as many people agreeing with them as disagreeing, and you can't do this, or that's the best idea ever. But it seems that they'll kind of do piecemeal bits and just pussyfoot around things rather than actually have the guts and say, this is a problem that's impacting the game. This is what we are going to do to resolve it?
Yeah. Well, of course, one of the main people on the IFAB board is Arsene Wenger, who's apparently coming up with most of the ideas. But Jonny, I remember watching an overlap a while back now with Gary Neville, Jamie Carragher, might have been Wayne Rooney, might have been Roy Keane, can't remember who was on. Jill Scott was probably on. But they were talking about what rules they would bring in. And I was wincing at some of the rules they thought they were going to bring in. And I was going, oh my God, if they did that, that would be awful. But so I don't think it's very easy. And I think sometimes, Andrew said that, they're fiddling, but sometimes these little changes, they might go, oh, actually, well, if we change it a little bit, that works. Let's go full hog and change it. So I don't mind them doing that sometimes.
I think you nailed the whole problem with it, to be honest, Chris, is you can put a panel of as many people as you want or as few people as you want. You could probably have 2 people sat in a room. And you could say to them 2 people, now these could be ex-World Cup winners. They could be people who've played 1,000 professional games at the top level. They could be amateurs from the park on a Sunday morning. They could be armchair fans, whatever you want. You get these 2 people in a room and say to them, right, what are the problems with the laws of the game? They're not going to agree, are they? They're not going to agree on what the problems are. So that's with the minimum amount of people. Now you scale that up to the board of IFAB. That's a bit bigger. Then you scale that up to all the football associations in a given continent. Then you scale that up to all the supporters in a given continent. Then you scale that up to the world of football. Even trying to get people to agree on what the problems are that we should fix is impossible. Never mind trying to get them to agree on solutions. Never mind then trying to get them to agree on, okay, so we've agreed that this is a problem, miraculously. And then on top of that, we've agreed this is how we want to solve the problem. This is the solution. Right now, we just need to agree the implementation details, guys. Should be nice and easy, right? Which league do we trial it in? Over how long a period of time? What are we tracking to check whether it's actually worked or not? So I agree that I think the thrust of Andrew's argument is spot on, which is you get all this tinkering around the edges and it's all a bit nonsensical and, oh, thank God they kind of kick off forwards first now and they can kick off backwards immediately. God, isn't football thrilling again? Obviously, that's a nonsense, right? But if you chuck IFAB in room 101, that's still a job that somebody's got to try and do, right? How are you going to do it? Maybe I'm being unfair and expecting Andrew to chuck it into room 101 and perfectly solve the problem in its place. That might not be quite his job, but I don't see anyone who can.
Because we do audio only, you listeners didn't get the joy of watching Jonny do real-time measurements as he was getting bigger.
It was very big fish, little fish cardboard box. That wasn't it?
He started off small and he showed us that it was getting bigger, but he showed us.
No, don't clip that out of context. Do not clip that.
But yeah. Anyway, I think that's round 2 good, and I think it's time to decide what goes in to room 101, if anything, from round 2. And I'm going to start with Jonny. Socks and shinnies. Yes, the holes and stuff kind of annoy us because I don't know what it is and it's a kind of newfangled thing. And I always like wearing big shin pads and I always had my socks pulled right up just because it was habit. But you'd lose out on Steve Claridge, thinking back in the day. And I'm not really sure that's a good thing. He looked lazy. He had that look. And there's quite a few players who were like that, especially in the lower league. So, I'm not going to put socks and shinnies in. Although it slightly does annoy us, and it's kind of slightly annoying as I'm not putting it in. But I keep thinking of Steve Claridge, and I'm going back to that. So I'm sticking with that. Andrew, IFAB, no, because I'm going to think about the final of the European Championships in 1992. Where
That's not where I expected that to go. Sorry to interrupt, but that is an incredible segue.
Well, if anybody goes back to watch that final, they'll see Denmark passing the ball back constantly to Peter Schmeichel against Germany in the final, and IFAB then changed the back pass rule because they saw it was a fundamental flaw of the game. I don't know how they hadn't noticed Graham Souness volleying it back to the halfway line before that, when he was in trouble in midfield. But anyway, IFAB changed that, and for that, they deserve the benefit of the doubt. So That takes us to a quick break before we go into round 3. So we'll be back very soon.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
If we knew more about our sleep, what would we do differently? Would we go to bed at a consistent time or take steps to reduce interruptions to our sleep? With Sleep Score, Apple Watch measures your bedtime consistency, interruptions, and sleep duration. Then, every morning it combines these factors into an easy-to-understand score from 1 to 100. So you'll know how to take the quality of your sleep from okay to very high. Know your sleep score with Apple Watch. iPhone 11 or later required.
You know you need fiber for a healthy gut, but do you actually know how to get it? Quaker's been serving up fiber since 1877, with over 100 great-tasting, good source of fiber options to choose from. Whether you like old-fashioned oats, instant oatmeal, granola, or oatmeal squares, Quaker makes it delicious. So good. Get your fiber with Quaker. Shop Quaker's good source of fiber products at a store near you.
And welcome back to How We're the Podcast for the final round. And Jonny, we're going to go straight in with your final pick.
So my final pick is this strange obsession.
Whoa. Why does he always get first go? Like, this is a stitch-up, this. This is an absolute stitch-up. I'm not having this.
Go on then. I just thought
people No, I can't be bothered now. You've obviously decided I'm going to lose. I mean, you're in with IFAB, Chris. You're probably the caterers for IFAB and don't want them to be thrown into room 101 because they'll get a lovely buffet at all these meetings. They'll agree on what to have for dinner and what time to have for dinner. But you're in with IFAB. You're in with Jonny. You two just continue with your little stitch up there. I hope you're proud of yourselves.
You know, if anyone out there wonders why our pods are longer than we mean them to be, this is exactly why. Anyway, Jonny, crack on with your last pick, mate.
So my last pick is Andrew Smithson.
Put myself in. I put myself in. I'm sick of this.
No, my third pick is the strange obsession that seems to have overtaken the football world with open play. Open play is now this sacrosanct thing that is almost a completely different sport that exists independently of trifling little matters like set pieces and dead ball creativity and skill at corners and free kicks and penalties. No. Those aren't real football. Real football is all open play and swashbuckle and passing and triangles and getting in behind. And don't get us wrong, that stuff's great. I love watching fantastic open play. But there's this strange snobbery as if, well, if it didn't happen in open play, it didn't really count. A striker scores 20 goals in a season, but, well, a few of those were penalties and they don't really count, as if a penalty is just a guaranteed goal every time. Or, I mean, you see it so recently, the reason it's sort of stuck in my mind a bit is a lot of it with Bruno Fernandes and Declan Rice, two players who are incredibly productive from dead balls, create so many chances, set up loads of goals. I mean, Declan Rice, those couple of free kicks against Real Madrid in the Champions League last season, obviously that was very prominent. Bruno Fernandes, there was something on Sky Sports a week or two ago that was looking at his, comparing his numbers to the rest of the league or whatever. And they showed, not to hark too much back to the last episode, they showed his assist numbers and they split it into open play assists and non-open play assists, as if there's something to be devalued about creating a goal just because it came from a dead ball instead of coming from open play. And I don't understand it. It's like everything that happens within those white lines between the referee's whistles for the start and end of the game is football, just because it's not as fashionable and just because it's not as aesthetically pleasing for a lot of people to watch things being, created from corners whipped in or free kicks or whatever. That doesn't mean it isn't still incredibly difficult to get good at and something that's an incredibly profitable part of football for a, especially a team like Sunderland, possibly biased towards it. How many set piece goals have we scored in games where maybe otherwise we wouldn't have had a sniff? It's very easy for these, usually it's big club fans as well, who have this type of attitude, and the kind of the Sky generation of fans who only watch on armchairs. Oh, well, free kicks, well, nobody likes free kicks, corners, set pieces, penalties, open play. Oh, you should see the amount of goals he scores in open play. As if it's something that's fundamentally different when they're all part of the same sport. You can't have open play without dead balls. You can't have dead balls without open play. They're all part of football. So why can't we just accept that and take things for what they are and appreciate that there are aspects of football that don't fit neatly into the kind of received wisdom of, at the moment, it's Pep Guardiola's football's the best. Before that, it was, go back to the history of football. You had Cruyff's football, you had Brazil in the 70s, whatever you want to point at as the prevailing orthodoxy of the time. It's okay to play football in different ways than that. And I think people are, very, very snobby about it. Look down their noses at the aspects of the game they deem beneath them. I think it's a crying shame.
So you're saying it's the discussion around it rather than actually having the stat? Because I don't necessarily, I quite like it, as we know, other than XA, as we talked about last time. I quite like a bit of data, but I don't mind if it defines, if somebody's stats come up on the screen and the show, right, he scored, a midfielder scored 10 goals this season, and then it says 8 were from set pieces. Or, then you'll go, oh, actually, well, I can get an idea of what that type of player is and what kind of goal he scores.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong whatsoever with painting as full of a picture as you possibly can about a player or a team, or sometimes it's even used to compare, one league against another league, maybe, when you get those kind of debates about what are the best leagues in the world or what have you. The more data you've got, you can inform yourself more and come to a better conclusion. But it's the attitude that underpins it which really rankles with me, because if what was happening when these stats were being shown was what you've just described, Chris, where you look and you go, oh, okay, so that's interesting, it tells us what kind of player he is, that would be one thing. I don't think that is what's happening, though. Because the attitudes are overwhelmingly negative towards this sort of thing, the broadcasters, the newspapers, the football content providers lean into that and start, you know what it's like. You watch a game on Sky and there'll be endless number of stats that are flashed up that are so clearly cherry-picked perfectly to suit someone's agenda, whatever the narrative, the talking point might be for that particular week or that particular month. At any given moment, it might be Bruno Fernandes can only do stuff from set pieces. So all of a sudden it's, here's the assists split in their open play and set pieces. You see it how many times as well. This is a slight tangent, but it's great when a striker's in a decent bit of form and Sky will flash up like goals in the Premier League since the 13th of November 2025 specifically. And you're like, that's weird. I don't remember when we started tracking stats exactly from the middle of November for no reason. And it's all done to further this. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? People develop attitudes about the game. Those seep through into the broadcasters, and then part of their job is essentially to pander to the attitudes of the people watching, because that's how you get them to watch. So then it goes and it goes and it goes. And I think it's accelerated to the point now where there's a genuine distaste for what is a massive part of a game of football.
Well, you did mention negative comments based on having an agenda, so I think it's probably a good point to bring Andrew in on that.
Oh!
Well, I'm expecting you to pull it apart.
I wish I had massive shin pads on, Chris, because you've just too funny. You've just too funny with that one.
I thought you might have some negative comments because you don't want him to win.
I wasn't listening. It's a foregone conclusion. I've been shafted by you two. I didn't listen to any of that. No, I love you, really, lads. I genuinely do. I am just being an idiot. Johnny's right. There's a lot of sniffiness around it. I heard on I think it was The Guardian podcast recently, which is a genuine heavyweight football podcast. Somebody was suggesting that if Arsenal win the Premier League this year, it might go down in history with a bit of an asterisk next to it because of how many goals they've scored from set plays. It's just rubbish. At no point have I come away from a good Sunderland result and given a nick about whether it was the goals were from passing moves, open play, throw it. The game's there to be won by the goals you score, and as long as it's a legitimate goal, you take every opportunity possible. And that point as well about cherry picking stats, and it's all just to make talking points on the commentaries and on the news articles and all of this. It's just, I might even say fake news. Am I going to say fake news? I'll steer clear of that, but it's all just generated to cause talking points, and it gets a bit tiresome.
Well, here's me expecting you to pull that apart, and you back them up, because we need to go into your last pick, Andrew.
Yes. England expects you to pay over the odds for your football shirts. Do you like that one, lads? That was another pathetic pre-prepared line of mine.
No, that's very good. I like that one.
Oh, thank you very much. How desperate of me to then ask for justification for things I've said. The New England kits have just come out, and the prices are eye-watering. I think it's scandalous. Now, listen, I've shown in the first episode, I've shown in this episode, I will quite happily shift the goalposts and change my principles to suit my arguments. I'll admit to that. I don't mind it so much when clubs charge a lot of money for shirts, because the businesses, they've got transfer fees to fund. There's like a finite number of fans that they can get money from. But the FA, they're a governing body. They shouldn't be trying to make profit. There's millions of people that would happily pay a reasonable price for an England shirt. But nah, let's just cash in. Let's just forget the fact that during a World Cup, they will coin it in with various endorsements and advertising and all of that. Let's just squeeze a bit more out of the punters on the street to pay for a shirt with 3 lions on. And this, by the way, it's Nike kits, and this has got nothing to do with the fact that Nike have pulled out of Duxford International Park and no longer employ anybody in Sunderland. That's got nothing to do with it at all. Nike's UK head office used to be in Sunderland, but they moved out a couple of years ago. But seriously, if you go on the online England store now and look at the prices, the old England shirt, what was called the stadium version of the old design, is still on there for sale for 85 quid. 85 quid for a shirt out of date. The current one, if you want to buy what is called the Aerofit version, it's £135. And if you want to buy the stadium version, it'll set you back 90 notes. Now, not everyone will know what I mean when I say that the stadium version. It's a relatively new idea, and a couple of domestic clubs do it and all. But you can now buy a shirt which is the same tech and the same spec as what the players wear, and you pay a premium for that. Or you can get...
Do they have that in XXL now?
Yeah. Well, the alternative is, if you don't fancy forking that out, or it might look a bit snug on me, I think, if I tried wearing a top a professional would wear, you can buy what's called like the fan or the stadium version that looks similar, but might be made with like lesser grade materials and what have you. Now, you wouldn't mind that if the fan version was considerably cheaper and you were getting it at a bargain price. But they're 90 quid. The cheap version is 90 quid. I think my youngest niece, I think her season ticket card for next season was only about 100 quid or something. So for a footy top, it's mad. If you do want to buy a kid's shirt, it's £65, which is more than you would pay for a full price adult shirt in the Sunderland Club shop. You've got to fork out separately for if you want to wear an England women's shirt, because they've got a different design, which feels shan. It just feels like an absolute rip-off. And, you know, it's the same with the change strip that they've brought out. Basically, it's a template job. Basically, it's the home version, but just in red. No originality in the design. This next point is personal taste. I actually think the England tops this year look like either a training top or one of those generic footy tops you'd buy in the supermarket. You know, they bring out like ahead of a World Cup, they'll bring out like a generic England top. Just everything. The stadium version of the shorts alone will cost you 45 quid, man. And last but not least, we're all going to want to spend our summer strutting around looking like Jordan Pickford. That's perfectly fine. I get that. You want to buy a goalkeeper shirt and look like England's number one, Washington's very own Jordan Pickford. Again, it'll cost you £90. You can't buy a player version for the goalkeepers. I don't know why, but they haven't learned their lesson from when that all kicked off with Mary Earps a couple of years ago. Last season's design, though, is still on sale at what is marketed as a clearance price at 68 quid. Last season's England kit, may I remind you, is a template, and if you bought the exact same top now, but with a Birmingham City badge on, you can get for 40 quid. Now, listen, I know that's not comparing apples with apples, and the stature between England and a championship club side are different. But the top itself, the actual shirt itself, is the same. The badge is all that's changed. Fans know they get ripped off. Fans understand that, but they're not even trying to hide it these days, man. So there you go. That's my little last rant of the day over.
Yeah, but I think one you didn't mention in there, Andrew, forgive us if you did, but there was this thing on the report on the BBC about shirts. It said, so let's say you're a family of four made up of two parents, one older child and one toddler. You would like England shirts for the whole family this summer, plus shorts for the kids. The total cost, so family of four, two kids, £397.96.
That's a weekend away.
It's absolutely scandalous. But I mean, it brings me, it gives me a really good chance actually to bring up, if anybody saw it, the old Sunderland strip with the Roker Report logo on the sleeve from DHK. I'm sure a few photographs were taken of people on holiday, finding it in shops on holiday, and I think there's a few people walking around at the match as well. But it does, though. I mean, it forces people. This is my argument about the live football and the amount of subscriptions. What they're doing forces people to look for alternatives, and the alternatives are generally illegal. Yeah. but the whole society seems to be forcing people to finding ways around doing things legitimately, and this goes, I think, across society, which is then what's it doing to society in general? It's making people who, have no interest in breaking the law or don't want to break the law. They're actually considering it because they're going, well, I can't afford to do anything in the right way. So, okay, the choice is just I go without. But then people are offering alternatives because there's so much demand for them, Jonny.
Yeah, 100%, Chris. I could not have put it better myself. That was exactly the point I was going to come back with, is not to disagree with Andrew whatsoever, but just to say I think that the biggest problem with it really for me is the preachiness again, and the sanctimonious attitudes that come from with the England shirts. It either comes from the FA or from, I think there was another BBC piece essentially shaming people for buying DHgate rip-offs, and but don't you know that money goes towards, sweatshops and terrible labour and whatever. And it's like, I'm sure Nike have got loads of properly good, lovely factory conditions of people working. I'm sure it's all an absolute dream to work there. But it's this attitude of, pricing people out of everything, forcing them to make these decisions between, any luxuries and basic necessities, essentially, with the way that things have gone with cost of living and everything, and then shaming people for finding alternatives that work for them in the face of being exploited at every turn. And it always makes us laugh as well when they'll be like, well, it's costing the industry X amount of money from people buying these knockoff shirts or whatever it might be. And it's like, yeah, if everybody who bought a knockoff shirt would have just bought the real thing instead, but most of them wouldn't. The reason they're buying a knockoff shirt is because they can't afford 135 quid for a bit of fabric to cover their chest and arms that's going to be out of date in a couple of years. It's just, yeah. They wonder why everyone's got fire sticks.
And yeah, exactly. And the daft thing is, if they sold the shirts for 25 quid a pop,
everybody would buy them.
Would they sell double and make more money?
Yeah, of course. Well, look, they wouldn't turn every single missed sale into an actual sale because, there's always some people who would just be like, well, I can't be bothered going and buying a proper England shirt and all the rest of it. But yeah, they shoot themselves in the foot. They hurt the true fans, who are the ones who are being gouged at every turn for all this, whether it's kits, whether it's match tickets in a lot of instances, season tickets, TV packages, whatever it is. And then they turn around and cry foul when people do this. And it's like, well, I wonder why.
The knockoffs as well, again, I get what you're saying about, like, you don't have to buy a kit. You don't have to buy a knockoff one. Some of them are made using inappropriate materials and that. They're blooming dangerous, man, some of them. So it's illegal, it's dangerous. And yeah, I do fully get that you could just say, I'll not buy a kit. I don't have to buy a kit. But not many people can get tickets for England games because, of course, there's millions of fans and the stadium only holds X amount of people. But there's so many people who get into football because as a kid, they couldn't go to the game, but they've got an England shirt and they're remembering an England shirt and feeling proud. The FA won't have a game to oversee if people are priced out and fall out of love with England, in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, mind, having said that, I would have paid 10 times as much for one with the Roker Report logo on from DHgate. I have to put that out there. But it builds into the Americanization that Jonny did start off with, because actually looking at tickets, it says for one person to attend 8 matches during the World Cup, 1 in each round. It's the lowest ticket price range. It would cost them over £5,000. In the middle price range, £8,500, and at the most expensive tickets, over £12,000.
Oh, and for a lot of those, by the way, you'd have to commit to all of them at once, or you get none of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think based on all of that, it goes without saying, Andrew, you do get prices into Room 101. I don't think there's any way we can't put that in, and that goes across the board, strips, tickets, and everything like that. And I think that is actually changing the game more than anything else at the moment, and changing kind of the audiences and how people go and how people attend. But yeah, so Andrew's prices does go into Room 101. And obsession with open play, I think that's got to go in, Jonny. I think that's got to go in purely because it's people being snotty about things, about an element of football that people have got to be good at. People have got to be practicing. I can't remember anyone being snotty about David Beckham back in the day with set pieces.
Or Seb Larson.
Or yeah, okay, that's a different day. One free kick every 6 months didn't const. But anyway, so that gives Jonny the win, 2-1. Well done, mate. Be very proud of yourself. Andrew, thank you very much. Of course, prices was an absolute brilliant one, and had to go in, and actually we'd spend a whole pod talking about this. So just leaves me to say thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, Jonny, for your time as always. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. Please let us know if you agree or disagree with the lads, or whether you think my decisions were nonsense. We're, of course, hoping to do loads more during the international break, so we've got loads more coming out on our daily releases on How We Have a Podcast. Keep a look out on the Roker Report website as well. But from us, it's bye for now.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.